All right, today we're going to be talking about mean, median, and mode as measures of central tendency. We're also going to go ahead and make sure we know when to use each of those, which one's the best to use at any given time for whatever statistical reason that we have. So the measures of central tendency are mean, median, and mode. It's just that's the definition of them. Mean, median, and mode right there. All right, here's our key concept. Mean, also a lot of times known as the average, is the sum of the data divided by the number of items in that data set. So you add them all up and then divide by how many there are. Median, the middle number of the ordered data. That means you must put them in order from least to greatest. If the middle is two numbers, then we have to find the average of those two, or the mean of those two. And mode is the number that occurs most often. The thing with mode is it can go ahead and have two separate answers, or three or four, depending upon if that number is if those numbers are repeated the most above anything else. All right, so let's try an example. Here's the revenue of the 10 highest grossing movies as of 2004. Obviously a while back, but that's all right. Find the mean, median, and mode of all of them. So let's start with the mean. The mean is we're going to add all of these together and then divide by 10. So sum of all the revenues divided by the number of movies. So we add them all up, dot, dot, dot means we just continue, we ran out of room, and then divided by 10. And so we get 266.8, obviously in millions of dollars. So that's the average of what a movie, the top movies by 2004 had. All right, let's talk about another one. Let's go with median. In order to do median, we're going to have to take all these values, and we're going to have to go ahead and order them from least to greatest. So we did that on this next slide here. Order them from least to greatest. Now there's 10 of them. So when you start canceling things out, left, right, we're going to be left with 2 in the middle. Now remember, when there's 2 in the middle, just add them together, divide by 2. So 255 is the median. Now notice 255 is not one of our numbers. That's okay. It is possible to have that. And then in terms of mode, we've already listed them all out so we can see if there's any repeat. And none do. And so we tend to say this is no mode. So the median is 255 and there is no mode because each of them only occurs once. All right, let's try another one. This is a little different way of it being shown. This is a line plot. That means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros, a couple of 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, so on and so forth. And we're still going to do the mean, median, and mode. So one way we can kind of cheat with this is because we know how many zeros we have. Instead of writing all the zeros out, writing the zeros 6 times, we're just going to do 0 times 6. And instead of writing the 1s 3 times, we're just going to do 1 times 3. And 5, because there's 5 2s, and then 3 times 3. 3 times 4, 0 times 5, 2 6s, 110, 111, 112. Add those all up and then divide by how many? We had to count up all our x's, which is 24. Gives us 3.6. All right, median, we do have to go ahead and order them from least to greatest. So if we have 24 numbers, it's between the 12th and 13th. This is even, so we should have 2 numbers again. Well, 12 and 13 are both 2, so the median has to be 2. And 0, if we go back to our chart here, 0 is by far the one that occurs the most. This kind of a bar graph or histograph is a lot easier to go ahead and tell the mode from because it lists them all out here. So the mode is 0. All right, when do we use the mean, median, and mode? The mean is normally the one that we want to use the most. But there are times when we can't use it, and it's when there are extreme values, when there's values that are not close to the numbers that we're using. Maybe we have 4, 5, and 6, and then we all of a sudden had a 12. That 12 is going to skew our numbers quite a bit. I'll show that on a slide here in a little bit. Median is the second best thing, and we just can't have any really big gaps in the middle. All right, otherwise, most of the time we say mean, then we kind of go to median. And then mode is if we have one number that just repeats a lot. So let's see which one's the best one to go ahead and use here. Now we have a lot of numbers in here, but the problem is we have this 8 on one side. We have 5 gets up there and 4 kind of gets up there, but most of these are really small numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3. And then we have an 8. That 8 does not allow us to use the mean very well. Since we have an extremely high value of 8 compared to the rest of them, the median would be much better. So when we line them all up, the median is 2. So we would say 2. It also happens to be the mode, which is nice, but 2 is a much better representation of this data as opposed to whatever we would get for the mean. What about this one? 46, 38, 40, 42. All those numbers seem to be pretty close to each other. So we're just going to go ahead and take the mean. On this one here, we have a bunch of scores, but notice the one score that's out of the way. It's 0 here. So because of this number here, we don't want to do the mean. That 0 is going to throw it off. So we're going to go to our second choice, which is median. Once we do that, we have to find it. There's an odd number, so we do have a middle in the median. And again, the mode, they're not always going to pair up that way, but sometimes they do, is 8. So that would be the better representation, because that 0 is going to throw us off. This is what I mean by that 0 throwing us off. So let's go ahead and do the mean with that 0 and the mean without the 0. The mean with that 0 is 7.5. The mean without it is 8.2. That's a very different number. So because of that variance there, we don't want to use the mean. That's why those big numbers skew the mean so much. I mean, here, 0.7 off from each other. So when we have those big numbers, small or big, that are way off the rest of our data points, we don't want to use our mean. We want to just use our median or sometimes our mode. And that's why the median was the better representation. All right, let's look at this one. And again, we get that 4.1 here that just does not help us out. So we're going to go ahead and stick with the median then. And that's what I have for you today.